Yo, Pierre, you want to come out here?
Hello, and welcome back to the second episode of the Odyssey podcast with your host, Carlos Ramirez. Today I have two new interviewers. Would you like to introduce yourself, guys?
Hey, I'm Owen Murphy. I'm a freshman at SHC.
I'm Kat. I'm also a freshman at SHC.
Yup. Thank you guys for coming on the show. All right. So I got a couple of questions, and we'll start off with Odysseus since he is the main character. One of the questions was, how does Odysseus' hubris sometimes get in the way of his goals?
Alrighty, okay, I think I can take that one. So Odysseus is a very proud character, and he does have a lot to be proud of. He's a skilled warrior and a very clever one at that. But his hubris does hinder him in many ways, and he makes challenges for himself with this. One example of this is when his ego gets in the way of him getting home and creates challenge with Poseidon.
Yeah. I think another good point is when that one time when he went to the other king's island where one of the people were insulting him. I feel like that was like pretty childish, and that was like pretty like that was just kind of like not a reason to get really mad, you know? Especially since he's like such a fabled like warrior. I feel like that was kind of like a low point for him because he was kind of like just getting angry like a child for no reason, and the king had to like calm him down.
Yeah, stooping down to your level. I mean, stooping down to the guy's level is like not the best thing to do. But since Odysseus is like really proud, he couldn't just help. He couldn't help himself, basically.
Yeah. I think a good part though is the evolution of his hubris, because it was kind of like I was kind of surprised honestly at the end when he kept like the secret of him being a beggar. Like I felt like it was like kind of ironic that he goes from being like this warrior to like disguised as a beggar by Athena. I feel like that kind of like really shows like the main point, and it's a really big point in that story, because at that point it's like if he messes up and he says something, like it's over, it's done, you know, like he's not getting any do-overs. So I feel like in that moment when the pressure was on the most, he like really lived up. So I feel like that was like pretty important because he really had to just like strap himself together and get through it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I never actually thought of it that way.
Yeah, because I just kind of like thought about it. I was like, dude, it was like him being like a beggar. It was like really ironic. It was ironic. All right. Mm-hmm. So we basically discussed the second question. Oh, the second one from
Telemachus. How does Telemachus
just change over the span of the series? If he doesn't, or if he does, why? You guys have... All right.
I think we see character growth from Telemachus. It's kind of through the story we see him go from boy to man. At the beginning of the story, he is too weak to do anything about the suitors, but at the end of the story, he, with the assistance of Odysseus, is able to kill all of them. And I feel like it's a kind of coming of age story.
Yeah.
This can also be a bit displayed as when he nearly strung Odysseus' bow, but you know, it just shows that he was worthy enough. The only thing that restrained him was his father, who motioned for him to not completely string up the arrow. Yeah. I mean, string up the bow. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point, Kat. I feel like that was like a really interesting point actually, because it kind of does show that
Yes.
Inheriting his dad's potential. He's really like, he has a lot of potential, and like you said, the only thing that stopped him from really stirring up the bow was his father. So I feel like in that moment it also took a lot from Telemachus to just really really accept the fact that he didn't have to prove anything, you know, because before he was like really quiet, he was self-centered. So I feel like in that moment it was really his chance to prove it, but he was more interested in his father and his goodwill. Yeah. Let's see. So for Penelope, how does the impact of Odysseus' return impact Penelope?
I think it's interesting because Odysseus' time away has definitely affected Penelope. It's really changed her mental state, because when Odysseus came back, instead of embracing him at first, she was very skeptical. So I think Odysseus' time away has changed her into a more skeptical person. But she was thrilled to have him back when she figured out that this was her true husband. and after she got over the fact that he looks as young as he did when he left. But it's a really nice reunion and really nice to see it. I kind of wish the story ended there with their reunion, but still this ended good.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really interesting part, actually. I feel like, yeah, it really does make sense that the story should have ended there, especially with like the tree thing. Like the point where it was like she tested him on the tree. It kind of really showed that she was really skeptical and that all the trauma she's gone through, like over the 20 years that he's gone, it really kind of changed her. But then after he came back, she kind of really understood it.
Yeah, consider the fact that also suitors came in. They were pressuring her to marry one of them. So it must have also taken a toll on her mental health, having to suffer all these many years of just men barging in and out of her house, taking her resources, and ultimately begging for her hand in marriage. Of course, she'd be skeptical if and when Odysseus returned. So yeah, that also plays a part into why she acted the way she did when they reunited.
Yeah. I actually just came up with this question on the fly. What do you how do you think Penelope would react upon hearing Odysseus' story, specifically with how he stayed with Circe? That's that point.
So I think this is a really interesting question because we're looking at it from a modern standpoint, but back then something like this would have been somewhat normal for men to be away for that long. It would be just expected that he would find another woman, but I'm kind of curious if Odysseus withheld that information or how descriptive he was with his stories with Penelope.
Yeah, that's what I realized. That's what I also realized with Telemachus' story. He kind of like just like showed up and was like, "I'm back," and then everyone was just like so shocked that they just went along with it.
Yeah, I found that weird. Like, if I was Telemachus, I would have been like, "Damn, Dad, where you been for like the past few years?"
I know. Yeah, I was talking with the other podcast group. I was like, "Wait, Dad?" I would have been like, "Dad, why are you just here?" Like, I would have had to like heard at least a good explanation.
Yeah, I would have wanted a good explanation for like missing my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah, precisely.
But it really, I guess in that moment, it really does show, however, though, how much they really needed Odysseus at that point, since like all the suitors. It does kind of show.
Definitely.
Yeah. And this is a question, the final one from Athena's point of view. If you were Athena, would you help Odysseus now knowing his entire story? Yes or no?
Oh yeah, totally. I would totally help Odysseus. Like, he was the champ. He did make a lot of problems for himself with his inflated ego, but I think the gods were just kind of maybe being a little bit harsh with him, especially Poseidon.
Yeah, I feel like Poseidon was like being like really like I think he really had a bone to pick with Odysseus after the whole Cyclops situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, definitely. If I were Athena, I would definitely sponsor this guy. So like Ajax, right?
Yeah.
He had a lot of flaws. Ajax was a braggart. He claimed that the gods could never follow him, which eventually led to his inevitable doom. But this guy, Odysseus, he is very flawed too. He has his main fatal flaw of hubris, which gets him into a lot of trouble, especially with Poseidon. But the thing is, unlike Ajax, this guy has a keen intellect. He orchestrated the Trojan horse. He eventually won the Greeks their prize and eventually the Trojan War itself because of his he was a very intellectual man, and I would think that is the main reason Athena would sponsor him, which she did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kai. You brought up a connection that I did not see. That was a good point. All right. Yep, that was all the questions. Tune in next time, guys, for the next episode of the Odyssey podcast.